You can use a hammer to go and hit somebody with it, right? I'm not saying every technology is equally destructive or what have you, but you can conceive of, it's kind of like Rule 34, but for technology, right? Right? You can probably figure out
Your
some
ability to reference brilliant things throughout is quite admirable, yes. But anyway, sorry, Rule 34 for technology, yes.
Rule 34, but for abusive technology, you can always come up with a Black Mirror version of something. And in fact, there is this kind of funny tweet, which is like a sci-fi author. My book, Don't Invent the Torment Nexus, was meant to be a cautionary tale on what, would happen if society invented the Torment Nexus. And then it's like, tech guys, at long last, we have created the Torment Nexus, or whatever, right? And so the thing is that simply describing something, some abuse, unfortunately, after the initial shock wears off, people will unconsciously think of it as sort of an attractor in the space, right? It's like, I'll give you some examples. Like, Minority Report had the gesture thing, right? And the Kinect was based on that. So it's a dystopian movie, but had this cool kind of thing, and people, kind of keyed off it, right? Or, people have said that movies like, Full Metal Jacket, that was meant to be, in my understanding, is meant to be like an anti-war movie, but lots of soldiers just love it, despite the fact that the drill sergeant is actually depicted as a bad guy, right? For the sort of portrayal of that kind of environment, right? So I'm just saying, it's like giving the vision of like the digital Hitler or whatever is not actually a vision I want to paint. I do think everything is, it's possible. Obviously, ISIS uses the internet, right? Like, is it?
Yeah, we're not bringing up Hitler in a shallow argument. We're bringing up Hitler in a long, empathetic, relaxed discussion, which is a different,
I understand.
which is where Hitler can live in a healthy way.
So
there's deep lessons in Hitler and Nazi Germany, as there is with Stalin. Yes.
Okay. So in many ways, and this is a very superficial way of talking about it, but this is exit is the anti-genocide technology, right? Because exit is the route of the politically powerless. Exit is not, people always say, oh, exit is for the rich, or that's actually not true. Most immigrants equals most immigrants are not rich. They're politically powerless.
You can describe exit.
What is exit? So there's this, book, which I reference a lot. I like it, called Exit, Voice, and Loyalty by Albert Hirschman. Okay. And he essentially says, I gave this talk in 2013 that goes through this at YC Startup School. But just to describe these, voice is reform, exit is alternatives. For example, in the context of an open source project, voice is submitting a bug, and exit is forking. In a company, voice is you're saying, hey, here's a ticket, okay, that I'd like to get solved, and exit is taking your business elsewhere, okay. At the level of corporate governance, voice is, board of directors vote, and exit is selling your shares, right? And in a country, voice is a vote, and exit is migration, okay? And I do think that the two forces we talk about a lot, democracy and capitalism, are useful forces. But there's a third, which is migration, right? So you can vote with your ballot, you can vote with your wallet, you can vote with your feet. Wallet has some aspects of exit built into it. But voting with your feet actually has some aspects of voice built into it, because when you leave, it's like an amplifier on your vote. You might say 10 things, but when you actually leave, then people take what you said seriously. You're not just like complaining or whatever. You actually left San Francisco because it was so bad on this and this issue, and you've actually voted with your feet. It is manifest preference as opposed to stated preference. So voice versus exit is this interesting dichotomy. Do you try to reform the system, or do you exit it and build a new one, or seek an alternative? And then loyalty modulates this, where if you are a patriot, as part of the initial part of your conversation, right? Like, are you a traitor? You're giving up on our great thing or whatever, right? And people will push those buttons to get people to stick. That's like, I shouldn't say the bad version. Let's say a common version. It's sometimes good, sometimes bad. But then there's the good version, which is, maybe the price is down right now, but you believe in the cause. So even if they're, on paper, you would rationally exit, you believe in this thing, and you're going to stick with it. Okay. So loyalty can be, again, good and bad, but it kind of modulates the trade-off between voice and exit. Okay. So given that framework, we can think of a lot of problems in terms of, am I going to use voice or exit or some combination thereof? Because they're not mutually exclusive. It's kind of like, left and right, sometimes you use both together. I think that one of the biggest things the internet does is it increases microeconomic leverage and therefore increases exit in every respect of life. For example, on every phone, you can pick between Lyft and Uber, right? When you're at the store, you see a price on the shelf and you can comparison shop, right? If it's Tinder, you can swipe, right? If it's Twitter, you can click over to the next account. The back button is exit. The microeconomic leverage in the sense of alternatives, right? This is like one of the fundamental things that the internet does. It puts this tool on your desktop, and now you can go and talk to an illustrator, or you can kind of build it yourself, right? By typing in some characters into DALL-E.
And that makes the positive forces of capitalism more efficient, increase in microeconomic leverage.
And it's individual empowerment, right? And so our sort of industrial age systems were not set up for that level of individual empowerment. Just to give you like one example that I think about, we take for granted every single website you go and log into. You can configure your Twitter profile and you can make it dark mode or light mode, and your name, all this stuff is editable, right? How do you configure your USA experience? Is there a USA.gov that you edit? Can you even edit your name there?
Dark mode for USA.
But I mean, just your profile. Is there like a national profile? I mean, there's like driver's license. Point is that it's assumed that it's not like individually customizable quite in that way, right? Of course, you can move around your house and stuff like that, but it's not like your experience of the US is like configurable,